has gone to college.
So I guess I'm like first generation college student.
When you see it the first time, I mean, you really get a feel of, well, some of the forces that we have to deal with. I mean, Pittsburgh is the Steel City.
We are a greater university on the national and the international scene because of our presence here in the city of Pittsburgh. This is our habitat, our environment of support, it's our cultural platform, it's our social obligation as well, and it's our laboratory for the study of urban affairs and other problems of this new society.
What are the priorities of higher education? And we have to fashion those, I think, for the University of Pittsburgh. And they may be unlike the priorities that are established at other institutions.
Agreed.
And I think where we must go with that is to examine precisely what that question says.
An exciting development in this conversation, and the term that Burkhardt used, intellectual free space, I think epitomizes what we're talking about, and it's sort of at the core of the discussion here at this stage.
I think that beneath the kind of discussion we've had, we are being pressed to seriously examine the myths that have influenced our behavior over time. What are we doing when we try to teach? Are we trying to transmit the past or control the present?
I'm skipping a lot of stuff too. You understand that?
With this question that you just asked me, I would have to sit down and think about it a little bit longer than just say, you hit me with it, and I just couldn't say yes or no right away. I mean, I would have to go back and just think about it, and then say measured against my values. Maybe my values say that no one could take a life. But
where do you get that from?
yeah, but what I'm saying is I think there are some values that are absolutely basic, and then they're absolutely valid.
All right. Some people will say that is an archetype of sorts, that it's a universal basic true thing. Now, what blackness is about to me is trying to find or develop such a set of values that adheres to whatever those truths are, and that's what truth is.
I got a little bit fooled by taking a Black Studies course. I have taken 18 credits, and that's pretty much of a load. So I wanted to take something that, would be interesting, but wouldn't be a lot of time and might be an easy A. But I got a little bit fooled on that.
But Thoreau was in jail because he wouldn't pay his taxes that supported an unjust war. I can't understand how something like that would happen. Henry David Thoreau is supposed to be one of our great writers, and yet here he was saying all these things about don't pay your taxes, and a just man can't live in an unjust society.
I think it was because it was the man's ideas. I think that the real revolution is a revolution that has to do with a revolution of what human beings are, their inner selves, who they are, what they are.
First time I've really got to sit down and listen to what black people have to say, exactly how they feel about things. I'm glad I took the course.
When American universities made a commitment to expand its clientele, then it inevitably came involved in a re-examination not only of the processes of education, but the purposes of education. Are we trying to impart information or elicit criticism? Are we trying to nurture an elite or make all men equal? Are we trying to cultivate minds or men as well? Shall we take as our subject man universal or man in particular? I think that the University of Pittsburgh, getting specific, means many things to many people. I sense the students are not only pressing us and challenging us in terms of what we say we're about and how we behave, but some are pushing us beyond that point and questioning the very legitimacy of the university in our society.
I think universities in the last century have been based on what the faculty want and what interests faculty. I think that it has been perhaps 8 centuries since universities have really addressed themselves to what students want and to what society needs.
When I was an undergraduate, I was very fortunate in that I had the opportunity to explore many different areas as far as picking something that appealed to me. And I got interested in the environmental health program and started here for my master's in water supply and pollution control. But the more I got into it, from the technical side, the more interested I became in some of the other aspects of it that one doesn't necessarily think of firsthand when one thinks of pollution.
Teaching and research have been traditionally objectives. Public service is a new concern. Is public service a third mission, a third leg of the stool, or is it an attitude toward and an approach to teaching and research, which is our traditional mode? The answer to that being that public service, yes, but public service is a criterion by which we measure the impact of our teaching, the impact of our research. And so the suggestion here is that rather than make it a competitive third mission, that it be the yardstick by which we carefully scrutinize the traditional missions.
You've already said very reassuring things before on this question, Wes, but I am an alarmist in what is avowedly a matter of increasing social justice and what in effect may be a matter of diluting the quality all the way through and providing poor service to those in the community whom we are avowedly going to help.
I think that we are committed to reconciling the relationship between quality and social justice in an utterly harmonious way.
And if we're to be a great university, it seems to me that we must do that.
So this comes back to reinforce our original point, and that is a liberal education, properly perceived and defined, is the most relevant kind of education of all.
Actually, I started out somewhere else and came back home and ended up at Pitt. I wanted to change to a more academically oriented school, and within my limited budget, the only thing I could really go to was Pitt. And I lived at home mainly because it was a lot cheaper, and I really couldn't afford to live anywhere else.
Even a number of people, like come in the shop, and you see that they're wearing a school ring or something. I don't know if it's important, but it's like everything else. Maybe you'll put it away someday, but at least you'll have it.
I think part of the class ring bit was that my father never went to his prom, and I think he feels bad about that. And this is his feelings towards the whole thing are a little ambiguous. On one hand, he thinks that Pitt's full of communist professors inspiring all their kids to do all these anti-American things, but on the other hand, I think he does have a tremendous respect for education and what education can do for you.
My parents always stressed to me, the only thing that can hold you back is yourself. And all you have to do within certain limits is set your mind toward a goal, and you can achieve it. Even though there are always people who are more intelligent, who have better, let's say, mechanical skills, or better physical skills, what have you, you can be an achiever provided that you put your mind to it. And they always encouraged me to kind of find myself and to achieve the highest level that I could. Maybe we should take this thought of an ethnic studies program into consideration when we are considering planning for the university, because obviously this is going to take some resources, and we've already established the fact that we have to be careful how we allocate our resources. Now, if in fact we decide that this is one program that we want to develop, that's fine. But getting on the Board of Trustees was a rather unusual thing. I was here in summer school, and I saw an article in the Pitt News, which is our school newspaper, that said the governor was naming a student to the boards of trustees. So what happened was I wrote up a resume and a descriptive letter about myself and submitted my own name. I think what my major selling point was, I just felt that I could really tell it like it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm a woman in the health professions, when she was explaining her case. Now, apparently there's a great deal of confusion.
One of 6 courses I have: anthropology, statistics, jazz appreciation, a black studies course, racism and capitalism. I have a history course, 20th century Europe. The course I like the best is the Europe in the 20th century. This is by Professor Kolodny.
The great powers still face an extraordinarily explosive issue at the crossroads of Europe, Africa, and Asia. How are you to see this in the light of this course? I would suggest very much in the same way that you may want to look at Ireland. First of all, that the partition of the Holy Land was the consequence of rather shabby politics of World War I. As you all know, the Balfour Declaration is dated 1917. The Irish uprising is dated 1916. You could call it Kolodny's Law, if you wish. Historical folly is transmitted unilinearly through time, so that one generation suffers for the political folly of its fathers.
I'll be the best educated bike repairman in Western Pennsylvania.
There's something to be said for experience, and I base my opinions on that, and Dan bases his on his education, so sometimes we don't agree.
I guess I could idealize myself as being a professor, distributing all this knowledge to all these different students. But I don't know if I'm dedicated enough to be the ultimate intellectual.
I have a very logical mind. Whether I'm planning a dinner or sewing a dress or work on a dissertation or think about the university problems, I do it by refining the problem to the best of my knowledge and then attacking it in logical steps. This verse is flow.
See, the whole purpose of what we're trying to get at is to be able to judge how much treatment the different municipalities and the different plants have to apply to achieve a certain level of nitrogen and phosphorus control in the river.
Right. And
Okay.
if in fact that control is even necessary. I mean, if in fact they even have to provide treatment.
That's right, if it's necessary. Or if in fact certain plants will have to do anything
Right.
because their contributions to the nitrogen and phosphorus levels in the river are very small compared to some others.
And we can only assess the contributions once we can have confidence in our physical description of the river, which we're working on right now. Well, Mr. Brinsko, the reason that I'm here today is because I'm doing my doctoral dissertation on the Ohio River between the Point and the Pennsylvania line regarding nutrient loading, nitrogen and phosphorus. And of course, Alkazan is a major discharger along the stretch of the river. So, consequently, I'm going to need some information from you as I carry on this project.
Let's take a look at the effluent here first of all. Here's one of the passes of the aeration tank. The material, once it does settle in the...
I'm convinced the solution to pollution will be an economic one because, you know, it's all part of the free enterprise system. And even though economics is not my area, I really realize the power of the dollar. We're just beginning to realize that there are costs associated with a quality of life. How much is it worth to have a mass transit system, which means that you can get in and out of town rather quickly, but you give up the freedom of your own car? How much is the freedom of your own car worth? You know, we're talking about the quality of life.
Well, my philosophy is that the economic structure sort of dictates what the social structure is. I feel that the problems that we're faced with, racism, unemployment, pollution, are all outgrowths of that system. And if we work...
What are the basic problems of our time? What are the problems of this particular society in terms of the way in which we structure our foreign policy? What are the problems of war, aggression? What are the problems of poverty? And I think these are the kinds of things that frequently, when they are developed in the university, are put down in terms of, well, these are grandiose. How do you possibly project in terms of these kinds of things? And yet, as you were saying earlier, the people I talk to in industry are raising these kinds of questions about ecology and the environment, and we sit around...
Marcia, there's an additional dimension to that, and let me suggest it. And that is, Ed, I heard you say that we're not a community college and we're not a college and so forth. Yes, we are. That's what a university is. We should be able to do everything that every other institution in the society does because what we have are particular kinds of resources that they do not.
You raised the question, Brian, about what is the relationship between the university and society. Is it, on the one hand, supplying particular needs of the community, or do we feel that we occupy a different role in terms of leading the way to see what the basic problems of our particular time are?
If people are asked whether if they could be something else besides a person, I always said I wanted to be a fish instead of a bird. Most people, you know, would like to fly. And so I think one thing that affected me is the fact that I think our waters are being abused to an extent, that we're not utilizing them to their fullest capacity as far as the range of options we have on using our waters. And I had a technical background, and so it just seemed like the natural thing to go into. I didn't, when I started into it, though, I had no idea I was getting into it so I would get into it so extensively regarding some of the political and economic ramifications of water pollution. It is, in fact, true. It's not really very glamorous, and you deal very closely with such problems as sewage.
What I'm doing right now is typing a paper that's due tomorrow. And, you know, there's the pressure of getting everything done on that deadline. I have another paper that's due next Saturday. I have a test next Wednesday. I have another test next Friday. And I have a take-home final that's due on Saturday. It's been a long, hard road, and I've been going to school for 4.5 years now. a friend of mine who's been active in the Y for a long time came up with a part-time job with them last year. And part of his job was being coordinator of this Little Braves program, which is a fatherless boys program.
Go get your big braids and bring them over here, and we'll...
And I was a little hesitant at first to get into it, but he invited me to one of their meetings, and as it turned out, I just was won over by the little kids that were there.
Put a set of keys right in
There was an
front.
opening, so I just sort of slid into that opening, and as it turns out, I'm really happy with it.
Hey, John? If you want to take the car this morning, that's okay. Just leave it for me. We met here at the university when we were undergraduates. We were married when I was halfway through my master's degree, and he was finished with his first year of dental school.
Hey, John? I think we're lucky in the sense that both of us would need a minimum population, in order to find work. So that we're looking towards settling in a large area, in an urban center. And that decision will be a mutual decision based on his opportunities and my opportunities. We'd have to consider both.
Right now, there's an opening for a program director, and I hope that if they're going to hire anybody to replace that fellow, they'd hire me. I really don't envision myself as 9 to 5 riding a streetcar with a suit every day.
The most important thing any person has to face, whether it's a man or a woman, is the fact that they have to make themselves happy before they can make other people happy. And then I have my own set of criteria which kind of makes up a good person. Someone who has time for other people and who, shows basic human kindnesses. And as long as I feel that I'm fulfilling myself, then I think that's the most important thing.
This is the first time that I've ever done anything in my whole life that it really made a difference that I was there. I think if I'm gonna do anything, this is the best thing that I can do. Like I think it was Thoreau said, you can't have an honest man in a dishonest country, something like that. All of us have, we have to work within the system somehow. So this is my alternative to being a 9 to 5.
What we have to do is to address ourselves to the problems that face our society and to liberally educate our students with regard to the operation of those problems.
That may or may not be a liberal arts curriculum or a professional.
But what I'm suggesting is that is a liberal arts curriculum.
That is not a dichotomy.
It's not dichotomous.
But it certainly wouldn't be the traditional model of liberal arts curriculum.
Whether it has to do with our involvement in community service or whether it has to do with our involvement in strictly internal academic concerns, there is some envelope of resources within which we must deploy all of our talents. And we can't do everything, even from an internal point of view, that might seem educationally, academically justifiable. We will have to make some difficult choices.
It must be ruthless in
Yeah.
identifying.
We have to do what other people have
programs that are substandard.
I would, however, hope that when we do it, that what we keep in mind is the human concern when we make those choices.
Let me return to the concept of this university as a prototype, devoted to quality as it is, being outstanding as it is, also oriented towards serving its constituency and being a part of its constituency. Now, this university, unlike almost any other I can think of, is in some of its parts a de facto regional planning institution. We are a quasi-governmental agency because regional thinking, regional planning can and should take place here for the megalopolis, whereas it can take place feasibly nowhere else in this region. And to me, that's a very important responsibility.
We recognize our responsibility in the educational system here in Western Pennsylvania.
Hello, Tony. This is Dan Lopez from the YMCA.
We welcome and encourage community involvement. We're becoming urban in kind of a pure sense. I mean, it's not just that we're a college located in the city or a university.
The university, because it is more stable and at the same time more independent than governments and corporations, can become, and I think will become, the creative eye for the new society, for its communication systems, for its social patterns, for its new political and economic structures. We shall be in the center of the transformation of American society, and we cannot escape the duty to lead rather than to follow. And this, I submit to you, is the keynote of the next major stage of advancement of the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.